G'day everyone, Smitty here. I'm going to give you guys a few different ideas and ways to look at the dumbbell row that I've developed over the last couple of years. So if you're training for strongman or any other strength sport, could be bodybuilding, freaking golf, or just want to look good and feel good, then this kind of stuff is going to help you get stronger, perform better, and even prevent injury. All right, let's get into it. I'm going to show you things that I do. It doesn't mean that it's right. There's many different ways to do it, so you need to find what's best for you. But if you haven't heard this type of stuff before, then it might just get you thinking, and you can find ways to do it that suit you. So the first thing I'm going to suggest is that you do your dumbbell rows, or at least try this version, up on a bench like this. This allows your body to be a little bit more upright, and if we want to go into a hunched position to stretch the back, then we can. I just think it's better than starting in a hunched position and having to force the body to work there. You're in a hunched position when you wake up in the morning eating your cereal. You're in a hunched position when you're driving all day or sitting at a desk. So when you come to the gym or you're doing this movement, let's try and practice some great posture, and we'll get a little bit more out of the movement that way. The other way that I like to do it, and that I invite you to try and think about, instead of pulling with the bicep or leading with the elbow, I'm going to get you to try and drag the dumbbell back. In order to use this here, so if you've ever done a straight arm push down or a pull over, I want you to try and do your dumbbell rows also like that. We're really going to contract nice and low down here. The muscles are important for keeping the bar close on a deadlift. So instead of pulling with the bicep and using the upper back and bicep, which is totally okay if that's what you're trying to do, we're going to try and drag it back and hit that lower part of the lat. You're going to feel a massive stretch and maybe a pump in a different part of the lat that you've never felt before. So when we talk about bodybuilding, accessory work, and muscle building, we've got three things we want to keep in mind. The time under tension is the first thing. How long is the muscle stretching, contracting, or just holding? And then we've got both ends of that. So we've got a stretched muscle and we've got a contracted muscle. When we talk about stretching the muscle, that's where we can imagine that the muscle fibers are tearing down in a good way, like tearing the muscle down, which is what we're trying to do so that the body builds back stronger. And then we've got contracting the muscle, and this is where we're going to feel most of the pump, and that's going to pump blood into the muscle and give us that swole look while we're training that feels good and looks good. And not all exercises are going to hit all three of those perfectly. Some exercises are going to be better at stretching the muscle, some are going to be better at contracting the muscle. So the way that I like to get inventive is to try and move my body to counteract that. So I'm going to show you how I would do the dumbbell row to get the most out of the stretch and the most out of the contraction. So although I'm only playing with a 10 kilo dumbbell here, if I just imagine that it's hanging straight down, I can stay here all day. There's no real tension on the lat down here. But if I just move it a bit out in front, and if I twist my body like this, you can kind of see it already, I'm starting to feel a little bit down there. So now that's my starting position, okay? Instead of being straight on, I'm gonna twist my body, move the dumbbell out in front, and I start feeling it, the tension along here, rather than just hanging down. Now I'm gonna drag it back using my lat, not trying to bend my elbow too much. I'm gonna drag it back, and that's the point where I'm feeling it the most in my lat. And then I'm gonna put it back while twisting, and then I'm going to straighten it as I go, because that's the hardest point to hold. If I twist my body in this position, it's actually kind of easy. So my dumbbell rows with a light weight, if I was trying to get the most out of the stretch and the contraction, would look a little something like this. All right, heavier dumbbells are going to be better for the stretch part of the lift. I'm going to exaggerate pushing that dumbbell forward to stretch my lat. I might not be able to drag it back with that same technique that I can with the lighter weights, but I'm just going to push it forward, try and get a massive stretch and tear down those muscles. I'm going to drag it back as best I can, but with these heavier dumbbells, I might get a little bit more bicep, a little bit more trap, but then I'll finish out the workout grabbing those lighter weights, contracting the lat properly, nice and low, and even working some half reps and just pumping blood into that muscle. All right, so try and remember with your bodybuilding or your accessory work, whatever you'd like to call it, there's no right or wrong exercise, but there's many different ways to do a dumbbell row, there's many different ways to do a seated row. So if your coach or your program is calling for a certain exercise, it'd be great to know why you're doing it and what you're aiming for out of it, so that you can practice different ways and try and get the most out of an exercise. This is something I've had to muck around with a lot over the years because my body type, my leverages and my posture doesn't suit some movements, so I can't go in blindly and just do pull-ups and push-ups and expect to get a big chest, big triceps, big back. I've had to really learn how to isolate some of these movements, and now I want to start passing on that info to other weirdos like myself. So I'm going to make a couple more videos like this, helping people out with their bicep training, their tricep training, and their chest training, because they're things that I've had to muck around with a lot. And like I said before, this can be for strongman or any strength sport, and all sports are a strength sport, because in your sport, you don't want to get injured, you don't want to get pushed over. All right, hopefully that video helps some people out or just gets you thinking a little bit differently about easy things like a dumbbell row and how complicated we can make it. Because what's the point of living life if we just don't overcomplicate it? All right, all the best. Graceful?
No.